What are we talking about? Never mind. I'll ask you when we start recording. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Stay at Work Home. I'm Keith.
And I'm Becky.
And today we're going to talk about something.
We actually talked about on our last episode what we were going to talk about because we were going to do it together. But you were half asleep and were unwilling to continue and finish our episode.
Because I'm a morning person.
He is a morning person. I tend to be a night owl. Somehow we survive and get along most of the time. Yeah. So last time we talked about our foundational family habit of reading aloud together. Do you remember what I stated as the other big thing? Like if you can't homeschool, or if you're homeschooling, but it just feels rigid, or if you're working a lot and you have toddlers, like what are some things you can do to begin integrating your family and work life together? You remember that?
Nope. I was asleep.
He was asleep. Well, it's simply to be outside as much as possible. To get our kids outside.
That's not what you said last time.
What did I say last time?
I think you said last time was something else. I was pretending not to remember it. Last time we said that it was reading out loud.
We already said that one.
Yeah. So that was what you asked me if I remembered.
No, we talked about doing the second part of that. We had two things. There were two things.
So reading out loud.
Reading out loud, which you've heard all about now.
With the family.
And secondly, being outside.
Being outside.
As much as possible. As young as possible. In good, bad, and ugly weather as much as possible. And wherever you live. It doesn't have to be way out in the country. I do think, Charlotte Mason talks about it a little bit, if at all possible, have a country home out in the country. But even when you can't, find places where you get the sunshine or the rain, but that you can be out in the fresh air or smoggy air if necessary for periods of time.
That has been true for us.
That's the thing. Mm-hmm. We've been all over. Yeah.
We lived in Korea, and when the wind blew from the west, China, it was smoggy. Mm-hmm. Like it was days that you would consider hazy here, we considered incredibly clear there. Mm-hmm. I heard it's gotten better because basically the Chinese kind of got fed up with the pollution and it's got better. But
yeah. So this has been something, I don't know that we stated this as like a goal in our life. I would say our childhoods were full of being outside. Mine certainly was in the summer and in the evenings.
Yes.
To a degree. When weather was good, were you outside a lot when weather was less good? When it was cold or rainy?
Rainy, maybe less so. I remember if I had the equipment, I remember probably as like a 14 or 15-year-old, I got an Army like Gore-Tex jacket and pants. Mm-hmm. And
you had to test
I would use them. Like it was so good that since I had them, I had to use them. And I would just go on a walk in the woods in the rain or the snow. I remember in the snow one time, like thinking like, I'm going to do this. But the rain too, just go out and use it. Go walk through the woods in the rain because I have this equipment that's going to keep me from getting wet. But when I was younger than that, there was just basically no, I don't know. If it rained, I'd probably come inside more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
But I wasn't afraid of it at that point. Got wet, got cold, whatever. Just keep rocking.
I don't know that I don't recall times I've pursued being outside in the rain or would have gone outside, opted to go outside in the rain when I could have not. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It wasn't something, but I think that's funny to me now because our kids, I mean, William and Mercy especially love to put on a raincoat, kind of like your Gore-Tex thing.
Yeah.
If it's raining, but it's not thunderstorming.
I've got this stuff. I want to use it.
They want to go out and jump in puddles and get muddy. And I have to be completely forthright and say, sometimes I say no. And sometimes when it's snowy weather, sometimes I say no. Sometimes when they want to go jump in the lake, I say no. I shouldn't, usually, unless they have work to do that they haven't gotten done. Like sometimes that's reward-ish or even just sequence of events. But sometimes I don't like the mess. So just putting that full disclosure out there. Like there's a reality to dirt coming in the house all the time. And rocks. Lots and lots of rocks that come in pockets.
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the third book of C.S. Lewis' Space Trilogy, That Hideous Strength, there's a point at which the Italian fellow, Strada something, I can't remember. Anyway, he talks about how like the wonderful future will basically be the elimination of all organic, nasty, dirty stuff. And it's all going to be clean, which means it's all going to be fake. And it's a great point. actually what's happening is he's giving into this sort of satanic vision of getting rid of all life. And you understand that as things move on. But our embrace of, yes, things are dirty. Yes, things are degrading, accept it and just embrace it as good and true and beautiful. It's real. The second part of that that's kind of tied to it, you need to be outside and in natural, not man-made settings, because one of the big, I would say, gosh, maybe it's the big, I don't know. It's another thesis I got to work out. But one of the big things that you've got to think through, and that is the basis of a lot of argument, is that this is a designed world, we would say as Christians, but it's also a fallen world that includes sin. So when you look out there, you have to decide what's design and what's broken. What is this way because it's supposed to be, and what is this way because, or even though it's not supposed to be. And the more time you spend in nature, those ideas, those bigger ideas kind of impose themselves on you. Someone made the point that they hadn't had any transgender bulls or something like that. Anyway, reality just kind of thrusts itself upon you in a way that's undeniable, and you can't fight back. Like it just doesn't work. But there's a dream that I think is ultimately dark, that wants to fight back, wants to change it, wants to eliminate the dirt. So there's a connection between, I'm going to let the kids jump in the puddles, and God is the creator of all things, and my ultimate happy place within it relies on my embrace of it as opposed to my resistance of it.
Yeah. And it's like a lot of loves that it isn't always, when you're used to comfort and you're used to climate control and you're used to lack of dirt, it takes time and a buildup of stamina, if you will, to get used to being out in the natural world. I think actually, I got to tell this. This is funny. We went on that walk the other day. I'm going on a walk with Martin, was tagging along. Keith and I are in shoes because that's what I think sane humans do when they go walk on gravel driveways, is put on shoes to protect their poor, pitiful footsies.
Little footsies.
And Martin is not just walking around barefoot on the gravel. Like, he's choosing the gravel part over going on the side where there's grass, because the grass is either wet or tickly or scratchy, or even the smooth part in the driveway that's less gravelly. And then he went and climbed, rather than walking around the pile of gravel that we have. What did he do? He climbed over it on the pile of gravel with bare feet. Okay.
And it's like the 1-inch clean gravel. So the rocks are sharp and big enough to poke you, but not big enough to support your weight with less than 10 of them. So it's poking you a lot.
Maybe we'll get in trouble for letting our kids run around without shoes in life.
No, I don't think so.
And it is again, this is another full disclosure. I get very annoyed when they don't have shoes when I want them to have shoes. So,
but it's kind of cool that they don't. Okay, so let me hit that real quick. Okay. I might get in trouble because my kids don't have shoes on. No, you're not.
Yeah, that's true.
No, you're not going to get in trouble. And I would let my kids run around outside until the streetlights come on, but things are different now. No, they're not. And actually, if we look at statistics, they're safer now, and it's really hard to kidnap kids now and not get caught. Technology's everywhere. Everything's tracked. There's lots of cameras, and
you're going to be an observant.
Things are not worse than they were. They're actually better.
And if you're a person listening in, you're probably generally, where your kids are at to a degree. Maybe I don't know where on the property they're at or where in the woods they're at, but I know their domain. I know that they are safe. I know their skills and their abilities because I'm involved in their life. So you guys probably listening this far into our podcast are probably those kinds of parents too. Not necessarily helicoptering. I would dare say we are very far from helicoptering parents. But so that your kids are probably, your fears are unreasonable compared to the confidence you can have in your kids' own abilities. Oh dear, what did I say?
Nothing. There was a meme I saw at some point in the recent future that said, when I was a kid, I really thought quicksand was going to play a much bigger role in my life than it actually has.
Oh, did you think so? Yes. Like I thought at any given moment, you never know when you might run into quicksand in the woods.
You really want to take a rope with you everywhere you go, with a grappling hook and some shark repellent.
Do you have any quicksand stories? Have you
No.
ever fallen? And you've even gone like in places where, in deserts and stuff where it could be.
I think it's a jungle thing. But
okay. Maybe it's just because we're not in a jungle.
the other thing that I thought was really going to play a huge role in my life was child abductions. And I think it was because there were so many television shows when I was a kid, 60 Minutes, 2020, whatever, like documentaries, America's Most Wanted, like there was no way that I was going to survive my childhood unless I was able to successfully thwart several abductions, because there's just people around every bush trying to abduct kids. Okay. The truth of the matter, there's a lot more people trying to get rid of kids than there are for people trying to snatch them off the street. Okay. Sometimes I want to get rid of my kids.
No, we
didn't.
I mean, for short periods of time, sure.
But you get my point.
And grandparents, you're welcome to take them anytime.
Mass media has made it so that every bad thing that happens. Did that stop for a sec? If it did, I'm going to repeat myself. Mass media has made it so that every bad thing that happens across the globe is amplified and reported. Okay, so imagine 1 million people lined up, all watching the same screen. Every time something bad happens to any one of them, it comes on the screen. Every time something good happens, nobody finds out about it. That's the world we live in. Mm-hmm. I'm ranting. This is something about going outside.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. But it also has something to do with the fact that you are the opposite of risk averse.
I'm more than a conqueror.
There you go. Yeah, you can't argue that.
There are dangers that may happen and that may occur, may happen to you, and loss will occur. That's true. There is a greater possibility that your fear of the danger will be the thing that defeats you, not the danger that you feared. Okay.
It's quite possible. I would say also that the greatest dangers I faced that come to mind immediately of my childhood were not outside. They were in front of television screens or with friends on the internet or something like that. So, and that was way back in the dark ages of you've got mail, etc. Not where we are now, right? Where it's in our pockets. It was not in my pocket. So that's where the dangers were for me at that point, and not outside. Outside was a very safe and good place. So I do want to kind of simplify what we mean even by outside. Like if you're thinking, do I want you, like what I encourage people to take hikes and go on adventures and do things that are, especially if you're able to homeschool, like whenever everybody else isn't there, go to the beach in the spring rather than the summer where it's actually pleasant and not overcrowded. Yes, actually, I would highly encourage you to do that. But I'm not even saying those things. Like I do think it's beautiful and wonderful for your children to grow accustomed, we talk about vacations, to another place other than home that's like a second home, and especially somewhere that they can enjoy being outside in a different part of God's beautiful world. But what I really think, I think back to our early days with, even in marriage, again, back to our foundational family habits. So we didn't even know we were forming at the time with our reading aloud together. We were outside a lot together. We spent, I did not know how to rollerblade, but this boy made me go, when we were first married. Okay, he was a man, I guess, but he made me go rollerblading down these trails in Germany. And I can't even express how much I long for that. Like just that time, like those beautiful times that we had. We did lots of fun and exciting things when we were early married. We had a wonderful field trip to Europe to do it in. But those times where we spent sitting outside on a riverbank, drinking coffee, or maybe just laying in the grass or watching the dog run, like just even in a green space in the middle of a city. There's just something about the capturing of all your senses that occurs when you're outside in God's creation.
I love the places that we went, particularly in Europe, mostly in Germany, but others too. There's I think it was a G.K. Chesterton quote I just saw the other day where he said, not the world is a book. Maybe the world is a bunch of books. The world is a library, maybe? I don't know. Maybe this is my quote now. The world is a library, and if you don't travel, you've only read one book.
Mm. Mm.
Here's the flip side of that. Most people are just looking at the covers of the books in the library and not reading any of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it is very important, and this is definitely where we're sort of leaning, I think, against the last 100 years plus of transientness, of let's make sure that the book, you read one book really, really well, and then maybe go read some other ones fairly well too. Going and looking at the covers of them, and that's what most like international travel vacations are, is insufficient. We noticed this when we went to Korea. There's an artificial familiarity to it, particularly in Korea. There was so much American influence there, but it's surface. And if you're there for a week, you might not know what's underneath. If you're there for a year, you'll get an idea. And from people who live there for 20 years, they're like, oh no, you still have no idea. The longer you stay, the more different it gets. So going on a consumerist vacation is a very different thing than actually reading the book of that culture and that place. To come back to those gardens, those parks, those trails, that's a different, it is in a way like at least a chapter in a different book, and very, very worthwhile. The the natural stuff, the urban garden experience where nature is still there, is very valuable. And I love it.
For sure. I think something else to keep in mind, and this I think would work for whether you're homeschooling or in a regular traditional school setting, is that even taking the normal things, and something that Jenny Urich would say in 10,000 hours outside. No, 1,000.
Oh, you're going to say 10 things I hate about you.
No.
I don't know why.
In 1,000 hours outside, or in her book, actually, Until the Streetlights Come On, which is somewhere where that quote comes from. And I lost the thought.
Oh, no.
That. I don't do that much.
Usually
your job.
You got me at the right time of day.
I know.
You're only 17 minutes in. This is crazy.
This is crazy. Take the normal things that you would be doing inside and simply move them outdoors. If it's raining, under a porch, or open the garage door. Or if you're able to do your reading lesson on the hammock, or read aloud on the hammock, or take your math to the picnic table. I mean, our kids, like, it cracks me up because, like, I don't actually have to make them do this. When spring hits, or when fall hits, actually, when both of the extreme seasons are over, or that glimpse of the beauty of what's coming, the rest in fall, or, the return to life in the spring. Just the other day, Gracie went outside. I don't remember what she was doing outside, but she said she thought she got sunburned, which she's not usually one to get sunburned, because she just felt so good doing whatever she was doing outside. And Annika too, even 17 years old, she's still enjoying that fresh air in such a way, just doing the normal things that they're supposed to be doing otherwise. They both were working on formal schoolwork. But I have known a difference when I hit resistance consistently in reading lessons. I could imagine if we had normal school homework, that sitting down at a table after you've been cooped up all day in a building anyway, just take it outside. Take it to remember that the racetrack, how they had those picnic tables with your ice cream? You go eat your ice cream at the racetrack gas station. You could even take, like, instead of going home to do homework, take them to the racetrack gas station, sit outside. Do you remember there was a little bitty, like, tiny, it wasn't even a retaining pond. It was just like it was a dump spot for water. It was a big puddle, but it was always there. And the kids found tadpoles in it and had a ball finding the tadpoles.
They got muddy at the gas station.
And there was something, like, slightly annoying about it. And then something just so endearing. And, like, of course, it was probably dirty and gross water. I don't know. It was right around it
was runoff.
The road, and is runoff, yeah. But if tadpoles could survive in it, I'm guessing my kids are probably going to be okay touching it. So, but just one of the beautiful things, we, I don't know, I think we strive for those covers to see the beautiful picture, or to try to capture the moments that are on the covers of those books. But our children are so skilled. All children, they're born with, as Charlotte Mason says, infinite capacity for attention, which is hard to believe when you're a mommy trying to get them to pay attention to what I'm telling you, right? Because they're way too interested in just all the things that the Lord is pouring into their senses. And so they're so quick to notice the bird on the tree that's unique, or they'll see the snake on the ground when you won't, or they'll see, well let's not say snake. That's like, I should earmuffs for snake probably, because if your dad's listening, he'd get scared.
He's like, never mind, I'll stay inside.
The cool shiny rock, or the worm, or whatever the case may be. Just they're quick to see those things, and sometimes we're in a hurry to get somewhere. We're just trying to run to the car to get to the place that we're supposed to be next. And they see the thing that they want you to pay attention to. And it's so easy to say, hurry up, get in the car. We'll look at it later. But we might not always see it later. And so helping them to see the value of noticing those little moments, because the Lord very much shows us parts of his character and parts of his beauty of creation that point us back to him, even the smallest of details. It teaches so many underlying lessons. And there is something about the sunshine, the dirt. There are documented scientific journals that I'm sure exist, because I've heard them quoted on other people's stuff, about the value, just to our, like the chemicals that go through our brains to keep us happy and healthy. Sunshine is absolutely one of the things that is good for us. And also dirt on your hands that's why gardening, they say, is, you sent me an article years ago about that, how good playing in dirt is for your mental health, your emotional health. And even we joked about it at one point. Annika she had, what do they call that? Not quite asthma. It was like somewhere between asthma and just a cold. And that somehow being exposed to more animal scat could actually, I read, or we learned that it could actually increase boost your immune system over time. Like if you were regularly around more variety of bacteria and things like that are not super dangerous, especially in a natural, not commercialized, hog pen, but the couple of pigs running out in the yard, it's a different kind of environment and ecosystem.
The sheep and the goats.
And I mean, those are extreme things. Like here we are, we did the crazy thing and lived on and tried hobby farming while he was in the Army. Like people don't usually do that. And that was extreme, but we also lived in a tiny house, small house, in the middle of town when Annika was a new baby. And we spent so much time on the rocking chairs on the front porch of that house, reading books, talking, sipping coffee. She played on those steps. We have so many pictures of her digging in that dirt and throwing those little rocks on the ground. And she and I, while Keith was deployed, especially between her first and second year, I just feel like we spent more time with her sitting in that stroller, walking to the park, walking around the neighborhood, walking to the coffee shop, than we spent inside the house. Like we spent so much time just outside. Partially, it was a coping mechanism for me, getting out and about and feeling like we were moving and progressing rather than feeling stuck while you were gone. But it was just it brought us joy. It brought us a lot of life to be outside. So simple things like that, living in town, taking good, like just simple walks, are so, so good. For all of us, for the kids, and also for us grownups. So it's interesting now. I think that Keith and I probably have to, like, we see ourselves needing to be outside more. Mm-hmm. But the kids would pretty much choose to be outside all the time.
They do better than we do.
They do. I think
much.
The biggest downside we have to them resisting that, because I know a lot of kids in our time, being outside is not going to be the first thing they want to do. A lot of them are going to want to be, I guess, playing on video games or watching TV or something like that. I think that's common. And it's just where we are in culture. But what I will say is that our kids will get in these spurts too. And, we are intermittently screen fasters, especially in the realm of TV and movies.
Sorry, wind is really strong and there's like
a lot of dust from the driveway.
I was hoping it wasn't smoke. I think it was dust.
Okay. Smells
blowing by the window.
Smells like dust. Is it dust from the driveway?
What are they doing in the driveway? Somebody doing something in the driveway, or
no,
that's just the wind?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
noticing things outside. Anyway, I had something I was on.
Sorry.
Oh, we're podcasting, bud. You want to say hi? So get kids outside.
Sometimes we don't go outside. Computers too much.
Yes, exactly.
Intermittent screen fasters.
Yep. And TV. Okay. So TV tends to, and we don't have normal TV, but we have the ability to watch movies. The more they watch, the more they want to watch, and the less likely they'll go outside. And actually,
worse their attitudes are.
And the worse their attitudes are, the harder they have harder time they have getting along with each other. And even audiobooks, actually, which is, we love, like this is a big component pillar to our family life. And yet even those, like the more we get hooked on that book, that draws us in and kind of helps us escape reality, the more we want of it, and the less likely we are to get outside. So I think balance is a word we kind of don't use a ton, but being conscientious that too much of a good thing is too much. Although I don't know if being outside that's true. I don't know that you can be outside too much. I'm not sure that you can get too many things done outside that would harm your inside life.
You feel like you do, but I think eventually you get conditioned to it. I mean, you want to go into your tent or your cave, or at least your sleeping bag
to rest.
Right. Like there's a line in a Wendell Berry poem that talks about a room too big for one man to sleep well in. You can imagine like trying to sleep in a gymnasium. It's too big. You want to be in your cave, your little den that you feel safe in. So there's something to that, but like I've been on long camping trips before. It doesn't have to be a cave or a house or whatever. It can be just your sleeping bag, and you sort of over time you rise to that level, and it is a rising to that level. It's better than what we have. It's a more fully immersive experience of being human, I think, than to retreat into the indoor always life. That is something you fall down to. The outdoor life is something you climb up into, and you grow to tolerate in the way of a muscle becoming stronger,
going further up and further in. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's quit before it gets stale.
Oh, can I do one thing? I told Annika that I would say this. So she wanted me to correct two things from our book podcast. Number one, she doesn't say she loves Pilgrim's Progress. So she wanted me to say that because she loves being correct. She does. It is woven into her speech. And if you want to go look for her on any kind of music player, he wrote a song called The Heritage of Dreamers. And you can go look it up wherever music is.
Heritage of the Dreamers.
Heritage of the Dreamers.
Annika Joy Phillips. If you look up Annika Joy Phillips on any of your music apps.
Trying to protect her from like blasting her into the universe. But I guess she's already blasted.
If you find the song, she'll be.
Good point. Okay, anyway, so you can look her song up. But you'll hear, if you know Pilgrim's Progress, it is inescapably woven into that song and into just what comes out of her when she writes creatively. So whether she loves it or not is a different story, but she
bleeds it.
She bleeds it. But the second thing was that she thought that a really good, and I should have done it at the beginning of this episode, a bridge between the episode about our reading aloud together and how much we love to be outside is she wanted me to recommend the book Swallows and Amazons by Sir Arthur Ransom. Is the name of the author, written about probably in the 30s or 40s in the golden age of children's literature. And when we first read it, I was pretty bored by it because I partially didn't pay close attention, but it captivated she and the other older two. And they, it was a major turning point in her perspective of how her siblings and she could engage. They became teammates or shipmates, if you will, on a mission and on an adventure together. And it very much is set outside where the kids are exploring the great outdoors together, and in a pretty, like, it's not a very normal lifestyle that these children are living in the book. But I was going to say,
most of it is imagination. It's all outside.
Most of it's in their imagination. And so I was just speaking with her this morning about, because after she said that, we started listening to it again. And because the younger set of kids don't remember the book that well, Martin would have listened to it, but he didn't like it because he was too young to appreciate it. Now shifting up, they've all asked to listen to it again today because it's such a beautiful, it's just told in such a way that they can kind of get into it and get into that life of imagination and working together with their imaginations and outside. And so it's just a really good book to kind of put those two things together. It's a book that inspired them to be outside more. And that was a really sweet spot in our personal history. So highly recommend from Annika Phillips, Swallows and Amazons. So
boom.
Thanks.
See y'all later.
Cheers.